And welcome to another exciting adventure on Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight's guest, you are in for a real treat. I had the honor and privilege of not only meeting her, but getting to MC for her at the 2025 Full Disclosure Now conference in Florida. So I am so grateful and so appreciative that she agreed to come on my show and share her story and her knowledge with you all. And so I'm going to stop singing her praises and I'm going to turn it over to the one, the only, amazing, informative Stella Rose.
Thank you so much for that, Michael. Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here.
Yes, and thank you for coming on. And you already, I think this is for you, is Sheila at Kashi is saying hi from Florida.
Hi, Sheila.
So, for those who may not be familiar, can you give a little bit of your background?
Sure, absolutely. In regards to this type of topic, in regards to extraterrestrials, cosmic awareness, and all of that, as a child, I really had a wonderful upbringing in regards to, you could say, the preparation to step into more cosmic awareness, because I was immersed in the arts as a child. Parents were touring musicians. There was a lot of music and art surrounding me all the time. And I grew up with the ability to connect in that creative way, which opens you up, connects to your imagination, which then opens you up to a higher intuition. All of those psychic aspects can be enhanced and activated when you're immersed in the arts. So this was my foundation as a child. So it really accelerated me. My first memory of having some kind of odd things going on. When I say odd, I don't mean that in a negative way, but it was about 5 years old, and I remember seeing something outside of my window in my bedroom. And I would climb up onto these electric heaters we had in my bedroom to stretch and look out the window, which I loved to do at nighttime all the time, and just stare at the stars. And one time I saw this, it was like this growing orb, that just kept growing, and then it flashed a few times and that shrunk back down really, really small. And I remember thinking, that's weird, very, very little. And when I say little, definitely in my 5 or 6 age range. And so I was just thinking to myself, like, okay, this is just another weird thing. I thought of myself as a weird kid, when I'm very little anyway, because I was having a lot of weird kinds of dreams. And I just assumed soon that this was just part of everything that goes on with me as a little girl. So weird dreams. I was having lots of supernatural type experiences of, flashes of light in front of me that I would see. I would see orbs as a kid, but I would just thought it was kind of natural. So when I saw that weird kind of thing out the window, I'm like, oh, I'll just chalk it up, put it in the file of other weird things that are going on with me. I didn't share any of this stuff. I didn't really think this was something that I needed to say something to somebody about at that age until I was a little bit older. And it was around 9, about that age, when my father passed away at a young age, which really triggered me to go on the spiritual path at just 9 years old. I was, his sudden change of transition, even though I understood what was happening at 9 years old. He had colon cancer at 29, which was very odd in itself. And he was a musician and everything else. So it was just a very big surprise to a lot of people in our family that he could pass so suddenly from something that was very rare for people at that age. And it prompted me to go on a spiritual path. I knew about the divine invisible even though I didn't quite understand it, I knew that there was stuff there that you could not see. Presence. I understood that it was an empty space. And with his passing, his transition, there was a mighty river of events that occurred after his passing that really shook all of us to the place of like awakening to this physical reality is definitely not the thing. This is just the illusion. So I had all kinds of supernatural experiences that really accelerated my path onto learning about astral projection, awakening to spirit, my uncle, and all of this is synchronicity too, as we all choose the people that will come into our lives, parents, friends, family, for reasons that will be perfect timing, not 1 minute before, not 1 minute after it needs to happen. My uncle taught me meditation at 9 years old. And I remember sitting in my bedroom and him giving me guidance on how to connect with spirit, how to receive, be in the receiving mode. And this was, quite rare, I think, for most 9-year-olds. So I was already on that accelerated path. I was reading spiritual books at 9 years old, but I was like very hungry for that knowledge. So that really kicked it out for me. And then I continued to have some very interesting experiences growing up. When I got to be in my younger 20s, I was drawn to tarot cards, and I intuitively knew how to read them. Started doing readings professionally for people. That took on a couple of years of doing that, as well as I was doing music and art. But this aspect opened up my spiritual realm so much more. That led to being able to see spirit. My psychic abilities, clairvoyance, clairaudience, all kicked in my 20s, to the point also where it got a little disturbing at some point, where I was able to see auras and spirit. And I say at one point because I don't see that now, but there was an opening in that time. For some reason, it got very heightened for me, and I was able to see shadows, and spirit also very clearly, to the point where it was very frequent. And I could hear messages that I needed to give people that I didn't even know who they were. So I was walking down the street and I would hear, you need to go and speak to that person. I would feel this urgency, overwhelming urgency to just say, hello, you don't know me, but there's a gentleman here with a red coat and he's asking me to give you this message. And it might be something random, like there's a pair of shoes in your closet and they need to go to this person that has brown hair and looks like this. And I would get visual images. And this went on for a couple of years. That also opened me up to a lot of things. But at some point I got a little disturbed about it. And I remember I had gone to visit my mom in Colorado, and these things were probably at its max, and I didn't want that anymore. I was just overwhelmed, and I requested it to stop. And I remember feeling like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it did. And it was, something that like, it's not that I regret it, but I understood why I needed that. And I kind of shut off those abilities for a little while. I started a family, my life went on. And it was in retrospect that I was like, wow, I didn't actually have those ongoing things going on. But now it's now kicking back in, certain activations. I started doing vocal channeling, audio channeling, started with automatic writing, and then all my psychic abilities started kicking in a little bit more. So it's now on an increase, but this is happening with all of us who are on the path of awakening and ascension. This is not just me. This is for you. This is for everyone who is embracing that ascension time. We're all having a lot of these abilities kick in for us in many different ways, not all in the same ways. But yes, so that led to me moving into more sightings. I started having a lot more sightings in my 30s. And I don't really talk about numbers too much, but in regards to time as we understand it, this was in my 30s that I started really formulating my awareness about cosmic reality. And I was in a relationship at that time where that was not welcome, and that was not something that was in alignment or a resonance with that partner. So it was something I hid. You know, it was an awareness that I was getting and developing, but I didn't talk about it, and I didn't really keep, all of that was just to myself. And it was really in the last 5 years that after many of these sightings, I started having messages come through for a long time that were just from my higher self, and then it moved into other forms of consciousness that were extraterrestrial in nature. And I was just, you know, taking all this down. So this was, and this led to, obviously there was in between lots of knowledge that was coming through books and people I met and things like that. It's hard to summarize your whole life into a small little paragraph, but I decided that it was time to share. And this is after that relationship. I withdrew from that relationship lovingly, and it was really the best thing that could have happened. I'm actually very grateful for the catalyst, because it allowed me to step into my power. It allowed me to come into the awakening of my true self. And then I felt it was important to start sharing. I was getting these messages that it was time. So I started, you know, reaching out to the community and visiting different groups that I was connecting with people. I was completely, even though I had known about a lot of things, it was so liberating to meet other people that were also in the same position, that knew about things, that were having experiences. That was an amazing feeling, to feel that connection with other people, because I think a lot of us here who are on this live stream can relate to this. When you're in a situation, and most starseeds choose that, right, to be in a family, maybe you're the black sheep of the family, or, you know, you have so much adversity around you that you kind of feel a little bit isolated, maybe, with what you know or what you're experiencing. A lot of us have that story as starseeds. So most people here, I think, who are tuning in are familiar with the term starseeds. But essentially that just means the soul has experience from many other worlds that chose to be here on Earth for this great shift, for this great transition into a galactic society as we move into awareness of our higher self. So we chose to be here as volunteers in this awakening time to pull up the veil, even though we had to kind of pull the veil down when we decided to enter this experience. So yes, in the last 5 years, there's been just a great acceleration of that for me, just in the willingness to share and the beauty to connect with people at different conferences, and starting the Cosmic Ambassadors Network, which is a local platform for people in my community to come together in a safe space, to share their stories, to pose their questions without being interrogated or judged. It's a very open space for people to just share their stories and also gain knowledge without feeling like it's being imposed upon them. It's just a sharing where everybody can take what resonates with them. But it's a promotion of this cosmic knowledge. It's a promotion of this awareness that we're connected to a larger cosmic family, and that this is where the great shift comes from. And so this is the preparation work. So I started that, and starting to get involved with the CA5 facilitations for invitations for contact, which has also been an amazing experience over the last few years. So yeah, that brings me to now, here with you.
That's amazing. And thank you for putting that all out there for communities to communicate and share freely, because that isn't something that's been around always. And I wonder, what would the world be like if we had that when we were growing up and awakening, had that support network, and how different might the world be now?
Yeah, exactly. Such an interesting question, but it's perfect the way it is right now, where everybody is in their own unfolding. That's an exact synchronicity as well, as we all chose our moments of awakening and when contact will occur for us in our individual lives in a lot of ways. Contact meaning the contact that is with your higher self and your higher aspects, which can be represented in the reflection of physical reality in many different ways, obviously. So, but I will say that also I forgot to mention, as a child, I do remember being very afraid of the dark for a big chunk of my childhood. And it started because I used to see, when I would close my eyes to go to sleep at night, I used to see these gray beings in my mind's eye, and they would be so close to my face. Like, it felt like they were right here when I had my eyes closed. And I remember this was a normal occurrence for me almost every night, like, and even during the daytime. And to this day, it still happens, where I close my eyes and there they are. Like, I'm seeing one or two faces, different types of gray beings. And I didn't know them to be beings as a little girl. I just saw their eyes and their face, that they had a large head and like grayish type of skin. And I just assumed that was part of my imagination, because I didn't know anything about extraterrestrials as a little girl. I thought it was just humans. Like, I didn't know anything until I got older, as I mentioned. And then I started understanding that these faces I was seeing all the time were something different. And as I mentioned, as I got into my 20s and 30s, I was having different types of experiences in my dream state that were very, very real. And these gray beings were a big part of that, especially for a long time. And still to this day, it continues. So this has, brought a lot of questions for me with the experiences that I had in the astral realms. You could say, waking up, screaming, not understanding what was going on. These were many things that were associated with sightings that I would have. And then that night, I would have that experience, and it really wasn't frightening. I was just afraid when I woke up, because I didn't understand what was going on. I thought it was like either part of a dream, because I didn't even quite understand lucid dreaming yet, of how you can actually be in that state that's in theta consciousness and still be able to play a part in that if you're awake enough to co-create. So all of this was, part of my own awakening personally, to understand that the dream state is not false. Just because you have a dream or your imagination, we were brought up in our culture to think that that was kind of just your imagination. It's not real. So this was part of the untangling of that narrative, which is absolutely not true. Which, I believe that was part of a larger scope to kind of help people not connect with those things, so that they wouldn't think of them as real. And we would dismiss them to our children, especially at the 3 and 4-year-old range, when they start to have these wider abilities. They can see spirit, and we would say, oh no, that's just your imagination. You're not talking to your imaginary friend. These types of things in our societal programming were parts that I needed to, untangle for me to understand. And as I gained more knowledge, I came to understand that obviously these astral realms are part of another level of consciousness that many of these beings obviously use as one of the greatest tools to connect in, so that there isn't a massive amount of fear that comes up from the personality mind, right? If they just showed up right in front of you, they would do it through dream state first, so that there's a little bit of an integration. So yes, those are some interesting questions that I get a lot from other people in regards to their own experiences. I'm sure you too, Michael, have had some experiences. Most people that I speak to all tell me, they started with dream state contacts of things occurring in their dream states, where they didn't quite understand if it was real or not real. So this is it's a liberating understanding to understand that your dream state is another form of consciousness, and yes, real experiences can be kind of slid into there, so that it is an easier process to integrate the experience.
That's very true. And for me, it was like, for example, like, if I saw Star Wars, I would dream and I would see like what I thought I was watching, memories and glimpses of watching the movie, and later realized that the main character in what I was watching wasn't from the movie, it was me. And it was my mind's way of unlocking and showing me this is, a part of your story. And so when I would watch certain shows or certain movies, it's like I would have dreams like that where I would see it on a much larger scale and feel more involved in the program. And then if I say like I watched some comedy show, it's like when I would go to sleep, I'd have no anything from that comedy show. It's like I didn't watch anything that night. And so I was like in the back of my mind going, why, only certain things? And then one night I finally asked my guides what was going on, and they said, what you are watching is your story, your experiences, so it's triggering your memory. And the stuff that you watch that doesn't, that's just mindless programming that you just see as mindless and you pay no attention to it. So whatever they try to program you and get you to think in those shows went over my head because I was like no attachment to it. But if I had attachment to it, it was like, man, it's stuck.
It can, yeah. And I do want to clarify a couple of things about dreams. In regards to having dreams, it's not always a literal thing. So dreams can be indicative of foreshadowing events. They can also be indicative of having an experience in a parallel lifetime that you're having it leak through, whereas you're receptive in that state of either the theta consciousness or delta state, you can perceive easier. So sometimes those things are happening. So it's also sometimes just symbolism. So you may be processing things from your day, and the way the brain works is the brain is a receiver. So it translates signals. And as you're processing things through your, let's say, your daytime, you may have a symbol show up for something. For example, if you feel like you have dreams of a tsunami always engulfing you, this is also symbolic of your emotions and your emotional state of being, and all of that being maybe feeling overwhelming to you in a lot of ways. So symbolism is definitely a part of dreams. I don't mean to say that any dream that you have in exact detail for, those direct types of things. If you have a hamburger chasing you down the street, in truth, in the most expanded truth, there is an aspect of that in reality, you could say, that is occurring somewhere, but it may not be relevant for you. And that's the key word, is relevance. So everything that you can conceive of, which comes from the higher mind, is then perceived by the personality mind, and it is received by the physical brain. So they work in tandem, all three of those. And the brain as the receiver then can project images that would be symbolic of those certain things. So there's dream reading involved as well to understand. And that's a personal thing. You know, it's not a one size fits all that we could say this is what it means for everybody. But you can ask your guides for sure. And if you have the heart's intention to understand what that is meant for you, you will get the answer. It will show up for you in ways of feeling intuitive about it, or a book will fall in front of you and you'll pick it up and you'll have the answer come right in front of you. It'll come in the most divine synchronous way that the answer will come of what that message was for you through the dream.
That's very true, and I'm wondering, with your experiences that you went through and everything, if that was kind of your way of preparing yourself for delving into, say, like the star races or star beings or however you want to call them. Do you feel like that, is a truth in your life, that, it was all meant to prepare you to look deeper? Or do you feel like that just kind of, you stumbled into it and were like, oh, let's see where this rabbit hole goes?
Stumbling is always on purpose. There's an orchestration to everything. This is what my truth is, that there is only synchronicity. And so I didn't always know that, but I can say that with such conviction now because I know that. And that is something that it bypasses the mind. When you know something, and you don't always know how you know it, but you know that. And I never insist that this is someone else's truth, but this is my truth. And that is that there is only synchronicity. So the things that I stumbled upon, for example, I remember one night where I was doing a meditation. It was very late. It must have been 1 or 2 in the morning. And I was in a relationship at that time. My 2 children at the time were very small. And I was out by the backyard. And I remember I was just opening up my heart to more expanse. I was already having some interesting connections with some extraterrestrial beings coming through the channelings I was doing. And I stepped with courage. I said, all right, I'm opening myself, ready to meet, if that's relevant for my life. I put that there. I never put an expectation on it, even at that time. I didn't always do that, but at that time I was aware that having expectations about things was a limitation. So I let it be, if it's relevant for me, if it would be for my highest good, I would like to be able to have an experience of face-to-face contact. And within about 2 minutes or so, it was very short after I made that statement, and I'll never forget this, I sat there and there was this massive, and my eyes were closed, but I saw a flash of light in front of me, maybe about 4 feet in front of me. And I opened my eyes and there was this orb that was floating in front of me with this spark in the center of it that looked like it was generating all the light. And this thing stretched into a pillar in front of me, no more than 4 or 5 feet. It stretched into a pillar and it was as tall as my, and it was probably 12 feet. And I just went into panic mode at that time. I panicked and I immediately ran out of the room. And I thought to myself, be careful what you ask for, right? So it's now later on that I recognize that synchronicity helped prepare me also, because now I'm feeling also inching my way, as we all are, to prepare ourselves for more of these face-to-face open contacts. It may not happen just because we say so. There's all kinds of levels of readiness that need to come up for ourselves. And when you're in the proximity of a being whose vibration is very, very, very much higher than where most humans are operating at, it's a different level. It can bring up a lot of dark things or negative beliefs that get rushed to the surface that kind of push us into survival. Like we think that the fight or flight gets activated. So if we're not completely ready, those are things that these beings never want to do anyway. They don't wish to startle us, but they have, in many cases, not just with myself, but other people, will test the waters, so to speak, and see where everybody's at. Vibrationally, it's really, 150 cycles per second, 150,000, I think it is, cycles per second that humans in general are operating at. And many of these interdimensional, higher dimensional beings, I'm speaking of the ones that are not only physical, that they can present physically, but they're higher dimensional, so they are quasi-physical and higher. In other words, they're spirit that can take a shape, a form, if they wish. And those are higher dimensional beings that are operating, almost at twice the level of humans. So it can cause shock, to be in front of a being. That's why we're not going to be introduced to a lot of these beings of that nature first. So it'll take some acclimation, and this is part of the preparation for all of us individually and collectively on this planet to prepare ourselves for these face-to-face open contacts that we're going to be having very soon. So this is the time, we're doing the great work. We're bringing out all the shadows to be seen on an individual level and also collectively so that we can be ready. And, when I say we, I do want to specify that because it's not everyone that is on this path of open contact. There are those that are not in resonance with this and they will not experience it. It's those that are on the path that are awakening to this knowledge because they choose to, and they wish to rise into the vibration of unity consciousness, harmony with the earth, and this type of experience. This is then how we accelerate ourselves into the living this lifestyle of being a galactic society. So remembering our higher selves and interacting as galactic citizens. The other realms that are still in the realm of living, that are choosing to live in fear-based, control-based, domination-based lifestyles, they will have a different experience. So there's going to be, you could say, interactions in different ways, but it will be probably not in the way that most people who are listening to this show anyway would like to see it unfold. There's going to be a lot more of those 3D game types of aspects being played out, control and domination. So this is not where this open contact scenario is unfolding. This is unfolding in a very new paradigm for humanity to step into, becoming eventually a member of an interstellar body, of a conglomeration of interstellar nations that are unified. So this is a totally different, you could say we're graduating for those that are on the path. This is getting your PhD in your cosmic knowledge, basically remembering and stepping into the full body aspects of our true selves. So yes, going through the Earth School is an important, you could say, gateway into becoming a cosmic society.
And that raises an interesting question that I feel a lot of people are pondering, but also, we don't know how to answer is, when you have those who are on the path to contact, those who aren't on the path to contact, are we going to be coexisting side by side, or is one group going to move to another location and the other group stays here?
Well, it's an interesting question, and I think this is so important to bring into discussion. So an aspect of answering this to the best of my ability would involve understanding multidimensionality and also parallel lifetimes. So in regards to who we are not just bodies, and we don't just live on one earth. We are multidimensional beings that are shifting through different realities simultaneously all the time. So that fundamental understanding is important to see how this unfolds. So we have, everything is based in possibility or probability, and there is no the one future. So that's also an important distinction to make. But those who are on the path of ascension, which basically just means raising your vibration, choosing love over fear. That doesn't mean we have it all figured out in our life. We don't have to be even awakened to our spiritual selves yet. We can be just living a heart-based life. That's enough. If you are voting with your vibration through living, through wanting and desiring peace, you're desiring love over fear, you're desiring abundance for all, these are indications that you are definitely on the path of ascension. You're choosing that. Your soul chose that. So right now, you will still be able to see in the what we call exterior of our reality. And this is another important point to mention, that the physical reality we see out there on the world stage or whatever, it's not really real. It's a projection of our consciousness. So that is acting like a mirror for our individual experience as well as our collective experience. So our collective experience right now is experiencing the reflections of what our collective believes and is doing and is unfolding to itself, revealing to itself. So there are many different time streams, I call them, rather than timelines, because it's not actually a line. It's actually continuing to evolve and change. So it's a time stream that different souls have chosen are on. So right now there's two main time streams that are with so much momentum, so much probability behind them, that those are the ones unfolding that we see most people moving into. This is where it's kind of what we call, the bifurcation has been mentioned of Earth, but essentially it's two main time streams that are diverging. Obviously there are infinite time streams, but most souls that are experiencing this agreement that we all agreed to experience are going to be in one or the other. We're moving like that. So you could think of it as two trains that have left the station, and as they begin to depart the station, they get farther and farther apart. So where we are in this ascension and this shift, this great transition of awakening on our Earth as we know it, this particular experience of 3D, you could say it's really fourth dimension being time. This experience we chose is that we are beginning to see them farther and farther apart, so we can still see the other train. So you may see in your outer reality things that are going on that may not be relevant for you. In other words, you will still see them, but it's not your experience. You can just neutrally observe it. And then as we continue to move through this year of 2000, the rest of 2025 and into 2026 and 27, there will be much more of a distance between those trains. So there will be less and less and less of that reality that we are not really interacting with so much. There'll be less interaction of that. There'll be much more in resonance with what we are vibrating at. Those who are choosing peace, love, unity consciousness, harmony with Earth and cosmic consciousness and all the beings that are in our cosmic neighborhood. So that's why you'll see some of the adverse things that we don't prefer still in our outer reality. And those beings who are vibrating at levels that are matched to that, and I want to state here, this is also another important point, that it is not a bad thing. Those beings who are vibrating at a different level, they're just simply playing a game, which is actually assisting us to help us know what it is that we prefer. So this game of duality is such a wonderful tool, this earth experience, and having the experience of the dualistic consciousness, you'll be able to see very clearly dark, light. You'll be able to understand, okay, this is very clearly not who I wish to be, or that's very clearly not what kind of world I wish to live in. So it gives you the choice, the option. So this is where we are. We're having the wonderful experience to be able to see both, so that we can choose the apex of the triad. We can choose the neutral 0 point to decide. And that is the most important thing as we're making all these decisions, shifting through these different realities and sifting and sorting, making decisions and choosing. Who do we wish to be? Are we going to say, I'm going to stay the same, or I'm going to change in every moment? So as we shift and change, we align ourselves with the path of either ascension, or we choose another path where we get to continue to still play out, because that earth will still be there, where there's lots of negativity and control and beings playing that. It's not that they're going to go somewhere else. We are essentially shifting all the time. So those opportunities for us are always here, and we're not dealing with that same earth. We're shifting to another earth where it is already so. So you never change the earth you're on. You never change the world you're on. You shift to a reality that is more of a match to where you are. So as we continue to do that, we are then going to arrive, you could say, into those manifested forms of open contact and harmony in our world that will shift more and more and more and more towards that. And yeah, so for those who are unsure about what that looks like, the analogy of using a film strip is very helpful. That as we're shifting through all these different realities, they're not moving realities. It's actually, that's what we experience as time, is the shifting through those realities is what creates the idea of movement. So we understand each parallel reality is actually it's a frozen frame. And then as we're shifting through, we shift to different realities, and eventually we end up on this open contact scenario, which is what our souls chose to experience. And being starseeds, helping to assist humanity in that awakening for those who wish to play that game, who are on that unveiling for themselves.
And one question I feel that is probably in mass consciousness is, we see like duality in relationships. We see, where you have one who is on the path of ascension, so to speak, and one who is on the path that wants to keep things the way they are. Mm-hmm. And you're a couple, married, kids and everything. As we're going and we're on the trains, how does that work for those families where if one doesn't want to, but the other one, is like, this is where I need to go? Does that separate the families, or do they stay together and somehow manage to be multidimensional in one space?
Well, I will say, first of all, just from my own perspective, and again, for anyone who's listening, please take what resonates with you. I don't have the truth. I just share my own perspective of this. But every relationship is by design, and therefore if there is opposing views, or you could say sometimes there is a vibrational mismatch. I don't want to say mismatch, but that is also synchronicity, because we all choose the relationships, to allow for the people involved, intertwined, to decide where they wish to be. And if they are not vibrating there, then they get a choice. They get a choice. In other words, it doesn't mean that if they don't agree that it's time to leave the relationship. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that if this is a pattern, there's a conflict of the full idea of who that person is being, that is in contrast with the other person. In other words, there's constant friction happening based on perspectives, ideas, awarenesses, that is creating dissonance. Then that can be the invitation to withdraw energy, to allow that soul out of love to grow in the way in which they desire, and allow the other person to do the same. This can be actually the greatest gift of love for each person, is to withdraw the energy and allow each person to develop as they wish. Because when you do that, you give them an opportunity to match you. If you're on a position, let's say the other person is, not in support of harmony or unity consciousness, or maybe they don't feel that they're empowered, right? They haven't embraced like sovereign living, and the other person is not. If you assist and you try to work things out, and it's continue, the door is slammed, there's your indication. If it's continually being slammed, they're not open. So you can never impose something on another. True love, unconditional love, means that you offer a seed and you don't have any expectations whether or not they have to take it, but you honor their path. And so as we honor their path, we can allow for sometimes those shifts to take place. I can speak from a personal experience here. This occurred for me, and this was such a gift when I fully embraced it. In the thick of it, you don't sometimes see all of that. But once I was able to discern and work through that healing, and also understand the greater picture, I was trying to hold on to something that was asking to leave. And so in that case, we create resistance, which is a form of insistence, which creates like skid marks. Whereas, you're not moving with the speed of spirit. You're not moving with the speed of love, which wants to take you exactly where you need to be, which is the current that already knows where you need to be. So learning how to let go and see where that is part of the inner work that comes with discernment and raising of the vibration. It becomes apparent at certain points. So that doesn't mean that we just completely stop and abandon people. That's not what I'm suggesting either. But it is sometimes the greatest gift to withdraw from a relationship if it is not serving you for the highest good. And it's not serving that other person to stay either. If you think that's better for them, because I don't want to break things up, it doesn't allow them the learning that they also chose to be. It delays it. So it's important to just recognize that that can be a great gift. And that's also part and parcel with sometimes setting boundaries for self-love also. So each individual relationship is obviously different and unique, and I would never just give a one-size-fits-all answer for everybody's circumstances. But it is important to know that that is often what happens in relationships as we continue to grow. Some people have their foot on the accelerator for personal development, personal growth, and other people have their foot on the brake. And sometimes those relationships are designed to just be the catalyst for the awakening, for the growth.
So that raises another interesting question for me is, as we're, use the metaphor of the train splitting and going further and further apart, if there's a point where you're like, I was on the path of ascension, but now I think I want to go back to this path. Can you jump trains no matter where they're at and go back and forth? Or once you commit to one train, there's a point where it's the proverbial point of no return. You can't go back.
It's a very good question. And I will say that it involves two parts of the answer. If you're on the path of ascension and you are raising your vibration, that part, once you let the genie out of the bottle, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't unknow what you know. When you reveal that, that's a major thing. So yes, you always have free will and choice. And if you decided, I just want to stay in the dark, you can't hide from yourself though. So that is really not a realistic viewpoint. Once you know what you know, and you're moving in that direction. Those who are on the path of, still control and domination and really are playing that role out and they're enjoying that, again, no negative judgment there. It's just an aspect of all that is, that they wish to play that. They still have time to jump trains if they wish, but that window is closing. The more those trains get farther apart, the harder it is to jump trains. Eventually, it will be very difficult and will be not possible to do so in this particular reality. So this is the time to choose. It's like we have been moving, you could say, through the eye of the needle. We are really, those who are on the path are really doing the great work to uncover all of these shadows within ourselves and negative belief systems and things to lighten the vibration up. So if we're holding on to resistance, we're holding on to letting go of that job that we no longer love, that relationship that is so not serving us anymore. If we're continuing to make those choices, we are choosing that train that is not going to be on the path of ascension. So that's not meant for any kind of guilt or blame, but understand that every moment you're given choices. So you can choose fear, or you can choose love, you can choose trust, you can choose the openness to move into and step into your higher self. So these are the choices that we're being allowed to give. So hope that gives a more clear answer. Yes and no.
It does. And one thing that I'm kind of curious on my own personal aspect is I feel like, I missed out on having like a personal relationship and family, but at the same time, I feel like doing the work that I'm doing, I wouldn't have the ability to do if I had that. And so as the trains, go and, the world, becomes what it becomes, is there a point where, like, on the journey, it's like, hey, we're all here now. This is the new way. And everything you've been looking for is sitting right there. When you get off the train, you're like, oh, this is what I was waiting for. The time has passed. The time is now, so to speak. Is that a possibility, or is that mentality going to be shifting away, and that's more of an earthly 3 or 4D thought about having family and those kind of labels?
Absolutely not. That's a general, that is a very genuine desire. And it's important, though, to not invalidate what is. So wherever you are in your life, it is perfect. When I say perfect, I don't mean perfect in the way we think of the definition. I mean that it is perfectly designed for where you are. You are always exactly where you need to be, and what's in your life is exactly needs to be there for what it is. So we don't want to invalidate what is, but we can still have the desire to continue to shift where we wish. If you wish to have a relationship that's loving and harmonious and beautiful, absolutely put that out to the universe that this is what I desire. But again, understand what is relevant for you in your life, because there might be a reason, there always is, but there might be a reason you don't understand at the moment of why that needed to be that way for something else to occur. So our higher mind knows this. Our personality mind is clouded. So it's important to work harmoniously with our higher mind, connect inward, and understand that if we don't have expectations of things and don't invalidate what is here, because this is the most important thing, is we see what's here right now and we are at peace with it, as we recognize that, and still hold your desires and continue to take action towards what your desires are. That's very important also. That's essential, actually. For those that have a desire for something, I wish to move to Hawaii, or I really would like to have a relationship, I would like to start a family, to take action towards that, getting out and meeting people, or opening your vibration up to be able to receive that. Having honest self-examination about what beliefs that we truly have about those things that may be limiting us, that's also very, very important. So it's about allowance, not making things happen. It's about not invalidating what's here and accepting that as we continue to take action. That is the true balance between masculine and feminine energy, which is where the magic is.
Thank you. And I know we're approaching the hour. Do you have time for a few more questions, or?
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
Okay. So I'm remembering, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your presentation at the conference, you were pointing out specific extraterrestrial groups, and you took a look at them in a most unique way, in my opinion. And so I'm curious, what was your aha moment and your, moment of looking at it and going, nobody's going here. I don't understand why this information needs to be shared about them. And so I'm curious how that all came about.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I would say that we are all taking action on what we're passionate about in this realm of ascension. Those who are on this path, who are awakening, eventually step into their true purpose. And they will take action on what they're passionate about. They will start to share that information. But I don't have any kind of, like, it needs to be shared. I just felt like that could be of benefit for somebody. So I wish to share that. But I don't have any expectation that people need to even adhere to it, believe it or not. That's not my business. I share because that's what my excitement is, my passion is. And I'm very passionate about the disclosure to ourselves collectively that we are part of a larger cosmic family, that they are here, they've always been here, and that we are revealing themselves to ourselves. We are also stepping into a higher level of life. We are allowing ourselves to live as a galactic society. So this is where we're shifting to. This is my passion, and I share that for those reasons. I do know that that will reach exactly the ears it needs to reach. Whoever's listening to this recording, this particular podcast right now, needs to hear it. Whatever information is being heard. So it needs to be heard. So there is no accidents in regards to any of that. And maybe there are people that are still listening going, that's bullshit. I don't believe that. That's okay too, because they may take that and maybe 3 years from now, it might be a seed where they have an awakened, total big shift. I don't know, but I do know that it's always orchestrated. So I'm at peace with that, and whatever I share is not with any imposition. It's just the simple idea that this is my passion to share that. This is my truth. This is what lights me up. This is part of what I'm feeling my purpose is. So that's what we are all being encouraged to do.
Well, I can say when I heard it and I was looking at it, I was kind of stepped back and like, how have I never thought about this before mode? because as you were pointing out, certain, races and what their, quote, karmic or their view of what they were here for, I was like, I really need to look at this because I think it might help make sense of what we're going through, because we all look at each other and we do our shadow work and we work on, so many layers of things, and we start to feel like there is no end to this work. And I get that, we are a work in progress, but I feel like when you presented that information, I was like, wait, maybe that's why this seems to be ongoing, is because I'm not looking at that.
Yes, I think it's important to also recognize that when any one person is ready for information, it will show up for you. So, if we say, why didn't I know that before, or why didn't I have this, that's also a form of invalidation. Just to embrace that it's perfect for when we all get information. That old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Again, it's synchronicity, not 1 second before, not 1 second later. Everybody's exactly where they need to be. We just need to be okay with that, because there's a relevance for our life. I don't have all the answers, but I do know everything that I need to know when I need to know it. And I feel absolute trust in that. So even in this moment, I don't have all the answers to everything, but in this conversation, I know what I need to know for who I am in this conversation. And that's okay with me. I don't think having all the answers to everything at one time it's not relevant. It's just not relevant. So this is how spirit works as well. And this is how, when you advance into the knowledge, how you can access the information of the universe, what is relevant for you at the moment. That is actually how you plug into the knowledge and wisdom of the universe instantaneously, because it does bypass the mind. You're just plugged into the isness of it all. And therefore, what's relevant gets sifted through who you are, your vibration, everything. And this is what you need to know at this level or awareness in your life. It's so important to be at peace with that. It's not about gaining and trying to consume as much knowledge as possible. There's a pacing to that, so that we can also assimilate certain pieces of knowledge and then be able to distill it into experientially in our lives, to be able to gain the wisdom from that. Then we're ready for another piece. And everybody in their own life is dealing with those things on different levels. So as we come together as a collective, this is important, really important, Michael. This is one of the most important messages, I feel, that needs to be shared in a way that those who are relevant need to hear it. In other words, those who are here. Because that will act as seeds for those who are resonating with this to take out into however way they wish to integrate that. It is very, very important, especially now, that despite who knows this, who knows that, whether somebody crosses their T's or dots their I's the same way, if you are on the path of wanting coherency, a unified collective where we live in harmony, if you're heart-based living, you desire that, even if not everything in your life is, you don't fit neatly into the society standards of what even the spiritual box of it's like, okay, you're very spiritual. That's okay. If you're living from that natural state organically, that you wish for that, you're here. We need to remember that we all have the same desires and needs. So all the exterior things, okay, we believe, oh, this timeline is going to be, oh, that actually extraterrestrial is this. And, it didn't happen this way. It happened in this year. And whatever we want to disagree with, those things are what create the dissonance. They actually prevent contact from a collective standpoint occurring when it could occur faster. And this is an important connection here. Our extraterrestrial family, our interdimensional families, they are so diverse. And this is the message I'm getting from my own guides and the extraterrestrials that I'm communicating with. They are our family, but they understand unity is not achieved through being homogenous. It is achieved through accepting the diversity that's there. So when we, unlike a Facebook friend because they don't agree with the same exact narrative that we do, and they are wanting and desiring open contact with love, etc. These are things that we can examine in our lives. Are we doing that? Because we're preventing the unification of our humanity in that way. It's okay that we have different perspectives on things. It's okay that we don't always agree. Some information is out there at different levels of awareness, right? But we're one human family. And those who are on this path that are wanting peace and love and maybe have different pieces of information, and we all have different pieces to be those different puzzle pieces to fit the bigger picture. Every person and every perspective is also very, very much valued. So when we have that, now we have a real understanding of what unity is. And that is what we need to move into becoming a galactic society that can interact with beings that are also enlightened, but they didn't go about it the same way this race did. They have different viewpoints. They're going to see things a little differently. And that's all right. If we start making things like this is the way you do it, and it's got to be in linear fashion, and it's got to fit this check mark and this check mark, we are distancing ourselves from open contact in that way. We are pushing it back. So that is the message that I felt very encouraged to share today, was that of true unity consciousness and allowing compassion to be a part of the equation. Because there's going to be a part of a lot of these disclosures even coming next week, and next week, bigger disclosures unfolding. Get ready, people. It's going to be coming more and more and more and more as we move and these train tracks come apart more and more. So as we're getting ready for that, we're going to see things, people, situations that are going to be very shocking, and it's going to require compassion on our parts, not hatred, anger, separation, and desire for punishments. The desire for justice to be done, it'll all unfold perfectly. Just trust that there's a reason for that unfolding. But there's going to be people that played a part in a lot of these darker scenarios that make a complete turnaround towards, you could say, wanting to be on the side, wanting to be of the light, wanting to be part of truth, now wanting to seeing their place of how they did. Just look at your own childhood. Everybody can say, oh my gosh, I'm a really, really nice person. But there's a few things I did in my teenage years that if somebody just looked at that, they would say, she's not a nice person. We don't wish to be judged by those things. So it's important to hold a larger zoom point that we're all playing part of these roles and leave space for individuals that will want to shift. They played a part in some darker agendas, maybe not even knowing what they were doing completely, but they were involved somehow and maybe feel a tremendous amount of guilt. Compassion is going to be very needed as a collective in the society to be able to move into a harmonic that is conducive for open contact, rather than judgment, rather than hatred. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy for all things, but this is the message that I'm getting, is we must remember to have compassion as these disclosures unfold, not only with others, but ourselves as well. There's going to be a lot of things that come up for us that are going to be hard to look at or hard to deal with, or things that have been a major player in our life for so long, and it's finally time to cross that threshold. So compassion for ourselves then will be reflected out in the collective, and that's going to be as an opportunity for us to gift another. So thank you for allowing me to share all of this tonight and co-create this experience with you and for everyone here.
Yes, thank you for that, and thank you for that message. And I actually had one last question pop in my head, and it's kind of something that we experienced that weekend, the day of being 5.0. And I started thinking about it with the fact that, we have sound healing where they talk about using Tibetan bowls to use certain frequencies to certain chakras to help grow. And then I was like, I've always, I like the sound, but I find it's too mellow, in my opinion. But then it's like I get into like a drum circle, and it's like I just feel pulled in and my energy going. And I can't help wonder if do drum circles have the same frequency ability as like the bowls do for sound therapy? Can drumming actually help heal and help grow as much as the bowls?
That's emphatic yes. So you're talking to somebody who is obviously very passionate about the arts too, as a drum circle facilitator, a percussionist, and an artist. And to me, those are just different colors of the same rainbow. But essentially, yes, with a capital Y. Why? Because everything is frequency. Drum healing is a real deal. It's an ancient technology as well. So not only in our ancient past, you could say, as we understand time to be, this was a tool that was utilized for altering consciousness to be able to assimilate information and take it in and download information in more accelerated ways, as well as healing on all levels. So drums are a very primal instrument. There's only one surface. It's a very forgiving instrument for people to play. It's a wonderful tool for being able to transform energy, to transform anything. Drumming is something that is actually one of the most natural things for all people, whatever age, it doesn't matter. I've drummed with seniors, that have arthritis and cannot barely move their hands, and the drumming works for them. They can use their fingers. It taps into another level. So rhythm and melody, they work almost like masculine and feminine energy. Combined together, they're even more powerful. So sound bowls offer frequency, so do drums. But when you can combine specific rhythms, which are cycles, right, which is an aspect of time, this gets into a very abstract understanding of things like physical drums, right? But we're talking about what they produce and also the action, kinetic action that's involved that helps to transform the energy as well and bring that out. The resonance through the drum skin, all of these things, they all produce frequency, including the person playing it. So yes, it is just as powerful as a permission slip, as a tool, and it is in collaboration with sound bowls of all sorts, Tibetan or crystal bowls, including other instruments that produce melodic resonance that can be utilized for sound healing. Some of them more powerful than others. As we utilize these instruments with the combination of rhythms, specific rhythms as well can be utilized. I have some training in drum healing as well. This was part of the study, was understanding the most basic shamanic rhythms, right, from our native culture. Just it's their ancient understandings. It's the most simple rhythm, boom, 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 boom. But they understood. It's not about the actual complexity of rhythms. It's about the frequency that those rhythms produce. And there are specific rhythms that can be utilized for different areas of the body that are related to the energetic wheels, right, of where we might have blockages that can be utilized for that. They are all permission slips. That's all they are. They're permission slips, but they are very good ones. And they can be extremely useful in transforming all sorts of energy. So yes, if you feel drawn to one particular form over another, trust it. That means that's for you. It's also not a one size fits all. Some people are not drawn to drum circles. Some people are drawn to the wooden flute, perhaps, or the bamboo flute. And that is perfect for them. Go with that, because that is what your higher spirit knows will be accelerating you. If you're drawn to that, follow what you're drawn to, always.
Yes, thank you. And it kind of, brought awareness to me of, like, I could be driving in the car and a heavy bass song comes on, and it's like, I won't care what the words are and what the message in the music is. It's like I can feel the bass vibrating the car, and it's like I'll feel my, putting my leg against the door so that I can feel the door vibrating with the bass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and then when the song's over, it's like it doesn't matter what the next song is. If I don't feel the drum, it's like I turn it off and change channel, even if it's a song I've always liked.
Yeah.
And there's times where I'm like, I want to get as much bass in me as I can before stepping foot somewhere. And so, yeah, I'm wondering if that's like my energy field saying, hey, we need to up our game a little bit where we're going. So let's add and, you know,
Yes, Michael, whenever you get excitement towards anything, if you're excited about music that has lots of bass, it means you're drawn to that for a reason. So that's part of who you are. And so not everybody's going to be drawn to the same types of music, same types of art, same types of clothing, same types of anything. So follow that, because that is your indication that acts as a thread to everything else in your life. So of course, that's your road sign. That's your road sign to say, oh my gosh, I love that song. All right, play that. Oh, I love the bass. Well, how can you act on getting more bass into your life? You can learn how to play the bass. You can play music that you really love that has lots of bass. You can maybe study the bass and just learn about it. There's a lot of ways that you can take action on it, and you will be guided, because that is also an integral part of becoming your most authentic self, is honoring what excites you and trusting that it is an integral part of everything else in your life. It's not separate. You might think it has nothing to do with my job, my career, it has nothing to do with, the people I'm going to meet later on. Oh, yes, it does. It has a direct connection to every aspect of who you are. It must sound so silly to some people, but it's very profound. Your excitement is truly a thread that leads to everything else. It's a complete kit. It's the organizing principle of your life also. It will tell you what needs to be done first, in what order. So if you trust that you're excited about even something is like, I love that song that has tons of bass, I'm going to play it again. That it's okay to do that until you change, until you say, all right, I've had enough. Now I'm feeling drawn to listen to this song, or now I'm feeling drawn to do this instead, something totally different. This is also, I feel like, such an important message to people, because when you do, you're willing to act on those things that are super passionate. They light you up, whatever it is. It's a small thing, a larger thing. You're willing to step into it. That is where you start to become your truest, authentic self. You become who you truly are meant to be. And that's your unique self. And that's the greatest gift. That's also how you raise your vibration the highest and the fastest, by being your true self. And those little things, they're important. Those little things to pay attention to.
yes, thank you. And I'm feeling like we're getting close to the hour and a half mark. And so I want to give you a chance to share with the audience if they have any interest in your work, and or your art, or the drum circling, or CE5, how they can get a hold of you and arrange that with you, or participate with you in that.
Sure, absolutely. Always love to connect. I don't have any books or agendas to sell books or anything. I don't have any of that out, but I do have my Facebook page. People can connect with me on. That is at Stella Rose Portal on Facebook. and that's Stella with 2 L's. And Instagram is at Stella Rose Universe, as well as my my website that it's not the most professional website, but I hold certain things there. You can find out a lot of information about some of the things with arts empowerment that I'm doing in my community, such as with my physical visual arts that I'm doing, as well as my music and the rhythmic arts for empowerment. So you can see both of those on there. They find out a lot of information about events and things like that. That is at universalcreations.net, and that universe spelled with Y-O-U. So Y-O-U and then universecreations.net. Universalcreations.net, and they can also connect with me through the email connect@universalcreations.net. Yeah, so, and I have some local events here for those who are in the Tampa Bay or Central Florida region, that if they would like to jump in and be a part of the Cosmic Ambassadors Network. I can also share that on my Facebook page for those who are interested. They can also join from there. That is a local network mostly for those who would like to be involved with the communications, building community around the subject of extraterrestrials and the preparation involved, and how we can do that in our own communities, even starting with our own families. So this is also an offering for those who are local. For those who are not, they can start their own groups in their own communities, which I highly recommend, to open up a platform to be able to bring people in that are just awakening to this knowledge of extraterrestrials, or maybe feel a resonance with it. They don't understand it yet. Somehow they just feel drawn. Allow everybody to come together in these groups. It doesn't take much, but it has a massive effect on the ability for people to amplify these energies of the invitation from a place of integrity for stepping into a higher realm of possibility as a society. So these smaller groups are, I think, extremely important. So I would suggest start one. If you don't have one in your own community, be willing to start one. It doesn't take very much to connect with people. You can even do it online if you would wish to do that. I think the in-person ones are great because they allow for a face-to-face realism, and some people feel much more comfortable to share things in that format in a smaller group. If you get a larger group online, sometimes it's not the same dynamics and people don't feel as open to share. So however resonates for you, take it and run with it. If you feel like to do an online, do that too. But those are great ways that you can also take this and expand outwards in your own communities.
Very cool. And I feel like there's so much more to ask and that you could share with us. And so I would love to have you back on if schedules allow.
I'd love to. And there's so much that we didn't even touch on with so many things. I just allowed it to kind of, the conversation, as we spoke of earlier, to just organically move where it needs to go. And I trust that everything that needed to be said for this particular experience needed to be said. And there'll be more opportunities as well that we can share so much more. And I look forward to that.
Yes, thank you. And one thing I would like to mention before I close the show and start the outro is how much of a honor and privilege it was to meet you, and how amazing it was to watch you be like calm and serene through the conference. And your presentation, you just stood up there, delivered it, and everything that was happening, I was like, I got to stand back and watch, and it was like watching someone in pure moment, because as things were happening that most people might get flustered and like go, oh my God, about. You were just like, it's okay. It'll work itself out. And it's like you had the most calm response. And to watch that, I was like in such amazement going, man, I thought I was like had knowledge and awareness of where my emotions were, but I was like, man, Stella's on like a little bit above me on that one because I was seeing myself getting reactive in response to stuff you're around you, and you're just like, it's okay.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I feel it was a big honor to just meet you and also so many people at that beautiful conference. It was an amazing opportunity to really uh, connect with so many like-minded people on this path. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have been able to present and share the information and meet yourself and so many other beautiful people there. I feel like as we all step into more higher aspects of ourselves, we will see examples set for us. And if you can see something in me in that example that you appreciated, that just means that you contain it. So, because you can't perceive what you're not the vibration of already. So if you can see that, know that you already contain that too. This happens with me a lot. And this is, so many people I appreciate and admire so much. But we are all, reflecting certain things to each other. So just keep that in mind, that if you can see that, it means you already have that, you already contain it. So it's just a matter of like awareness and stepping into it. So yeah, we're always shifting and becoming, that's true. But eventually you get to a place where that shifting doesn't happen as dramatically, right? So it's not like we're always endlessly on this wheel of like changing and healing. We get off the wheel of healing at a certain point, and you become at peace with knowing that pendulum that used to swing from out here and out here is now only swinging maybe from here to here and comes back to center very quickly now. So we'll never get to a place where that pendulum just doesn't swing. So it's important to have that swing because this is what allows us to be able to create the opportunity for process so that we can experience through time, the illusion of time, the experience we chose to agree with, so that we could understand the unfoldment of that, of shifting and changing. So yeah, there'll be a time where it'll be like, wow, I remember where I used to be like that, but now I've transcended that. I've mastered certain abilities. That doesn't mean it's always that way. You might step down a little bit, fall off the wagon, and come back up for whatever it is, the ideal that you would like to see yourself as, anyone out there. Remember that the path to ascension is this. It is not this. So as we take a dip down, that's part of the zoomed out view of the stairs that we go down so that we can step back up, but it's more like this. Whenever you're going down, you're still going up. It's not a straight up path like this. So that is part of the natural human experience. We're going to fall off the wagon. We're going to get back on. We're going to master things. And we're going to go, oh, I thought I learned that. Okay, time to do it again. But that's all part of the process, which is beautiful by design.
Yes. And so I would like to leave with this message for you, Stella, is my heart and my show's heart to you. Thank you for your service and what you're doing to help humanity. It's noticed.
Thank you, Michael, for having this podcast. Thank you for sharing your gifts and being part of this to create a platform for people to even come on here and share all these paranormal ideas, share these ideas that are maybe considered esoteric for some people, or maybe they're considered just normal behavior, but you're allowing this platform to reach so many people. So thank you for being willing to act on your excitement in this way and allow for this platform to reach so many other people that can be seeds for them as well.
Yes, and thank you to everyone in the chat room, and thank you so much. And I'm going to say goodnight to everyone now and keep hope in your hearts, because that's the one thing that the universe can't take away from you.
It never can. And remember that you are the universe. So we're always having that reflection back to us. But yes, it's important to recognize that we're not separate from the universe in that way. And when you see that, you know that any downfall or little path that you have a bump in the road, so to speak, or fall off the wagon, and we go, it's okay. Hope is not necessary when you know, because it implies something is still, maybe it won't happen, right? But when you come into a place of full trust and knowingness, you are the universe, that everything is unfolding exactly the way it needs to be, perfect synchronicity, then there's no need for hope so much. You just know it's you are part of that. It's exactly going to unfold. The current will take you exactly where it needs to be, and everything is in its perfect design. So that comes with a place of inner peace that can certainly help people to sleep easier at night, right? And thinking that they're not separate from the universe, that they are that. You are the path, you are the universe, it is you, and therefore trust is what's needed, what we're trusting. Trusting that everything is exactly for you and working through you.
Yes, thank you. And but I can't think of a better way to end this episode, and so thank you, and we will look forward to having you on again.
I would love that. Thank you so much again, Michael, and thank you everybody for showing up to listen. And thank you for the co-creation. Many blessings to everyone.
Yes. Good night, everyone.
Good night.